Hello, thank you for joining me. For those of you new to the channel, my name is Mindy Mandell, and I've been a Platonist now for close to 30 years, just about 27, 28 years. And I started this channel about 5 years ago. And I do videos on metaphysics, on Plato's dialogues, but also about things like meditation and other theurgic practices. And so I got a request to make a video that kind of puts it all together and asks, what would a day in the life be like for a Platonist? What would daily practice be like? Now, a video like this is a little bit difficult to make because I know that people have very different lifestyles. So some of you are working full-time, some of you are students, some of you don't work at all. And so some of you have lots of free time in the day, whereas others do not. Some of you live alone, some have family or roommates, some of you have small children and some don't. So there's a lot of variation. So what I'm going to do is give you a bunch of different ideas, give you some idea of how I spend my day, and you can, mix and match and see what fits you. One thing I do recommend, though, for everybody is to start the day off quiet, if possible. And find a way, actually, even if it doesn't seem possible at first, find a way. Like, for example, in my home, by 6:30, the house is bustling. Kids getting ready for school and my husband getting ready for work. And so by 6:30, it's already too late to have any quiet time. So I'm not a morning person, but I got myself in the habit of waking up at 5:30, and that gives me an hour to myself. And at first it was very difficult because, like I said, I am not a morning person. But now I have come to really value this time, and I can't imagine not having it. So just having this time to just turn inward is very, very important. It's quiet time to talk to yourself, to tune in to where you are, where you want to start your day. Dream work is a big part of the way that I do philosophy. And so I recommend that the first thing to do in the morning when you first wake up is to write down or to make a recording of whatever dream you remember, as much as you remember of it. And I'll talk a little bit later in the video about what to do with this recording. But initially, just to make sure you get that dream recorded, either in writing or on your phone or wherever. But you want to get it recorded before you forget it, because as soon as you get up and start moving, it's going to be gone very quickly. Another thing that's really good to do in the morning is something that balances your energy. I like to do yoga. Some people do Tai Chi, other such systems. Also, meditation can be very meaningful in the morning. So take this quiet time for yourself. This is time to turn inward, doing something with your own energy, balancing your energy. And then you have your journal. And journaling is also a very meaningful thing. And here's where I usually just write my dream in the morning. And so it's already in my journal. If you made a recording of it, of course, you want to transcribe it into your journal. And then you want to explore it. Now, to do this, there is a whole method for this, and I will link a video that explains how to do that. But just briefly, I'll say basically that what you want to focus on when you're looking at your dream is focus on the states of mind. The story itself is only incidental. It kind of sets things up. But what you really want to look at are the states of mind, because what we'll find is that our situations change throughout life, but there are certain states of mind that just keep repeating over and over. And so you want to look at what the states of mind are, especially where there's a major change, if there's a strong reaction to something in the dream, either positive or negative, doesn't matter. But if there's a strong reaction, then look there and see what's going on there. And look especially for familiar states of mind. Because as I was saying, there are certain states of mind that just repeat throughout our lives. Oftentimes, it's even hard to put words on it because it's just so familiar and so subtle. But that's the state of mind you want to focus on. And so as best you can, try to put some words on it. Remember when in your childhood you felt this way. If it's something that feels very familiar, it means you know it from childhood. Go back as far as you can and look at that situation from childhood and ask yourself, what is it about that situation, that state of mind that is meaningful in your life right now? Because if you had this dream last night, it means that there's something within probably the last 24 hours, possibly 48 hours, but probably within the last 24 hours that happened that triggered this dream. And so you want to try to find what it is that this dream is trying to teach you. Our dreams are intelligible and they are teaching us things. As a general rule, if you feel like your dreams are confirming everything that you've already believed about people, then it's very likely that your belief system is shaping your interpretation. And so what you want to do is try to push beyond that. Ask yourself, is there another way to look at this dream? Is there something else going on here? And then just sit with the question. I often like to focus somewhere like in the middle of the chest. And if you do believe that you have a daimon that guides you, then you can direct your questions even to the daimon, or just turn them inward and just ask yourself and just trust that you have the wisdom within you. And just sit with it for a while and see what answers come up and write it down. Another thing that's really good to do throughout the day is to watch your states of mind. So even if you don't have a lot of time to spend in formal practice, maybe you're working full time and you've got family and you've got lots of responsibilities. So even if you don't have time to sit in formal practice, you can still watch your state of mind throughout the day. And that's a very meaningful thing to do. It again allows you to see the patterns and allows you to see how you react to things and why, and that you can start to question, why do you react this way instead of another way? Because everybody's reaction is different. Now, even though we don't all have a lot of free time to do reading, we do want to at least try to find time in the day to do at least a little bit of reading. And when you're doing your reading, what you want to do as best you can is to leave that narrative aside. Much like with dream work, where you want to try to leave your own assumptions out of it and try to look for what's really there in the dream. Because the dream is, of course, showing you your assumptions. They're showing you what happens when you act on those assumptions. And so you have to see beyond them. It can be very helpful to have a friend, by the way, or a family member who you trust to discuss the dream with, because that person will have a different perspective. And so it's one way to bypass our assumptions. Same with reading. It really does help to read with friends. If you have friends who are Platonists, then you may want to try to start kind of a reading group. But even if you're reading alone, you want to try as best you can to leave your personal narrative aside. Now, I did recently, at least at the time of making this video, I did recently post a video where there was a discussion about reading wisdom literature. I will post that at the end. I can only post one video at the top here as in the middle of the video. So I put the dream one is already there. So I will put the reading video at the end. Now, throughout the day, there are some things that we can do, whether you are like washing dishes or you're working and you're on the subway or you're sitting at your desk or whatever. There are some things that you can do. When you have time to turn your thoughts inward, obviously, if you're at work, you're focusing on your work, but those moments when you can turn inward, you might want to carry a metaphysical question. Maybe you were reading something, say, about the nature of the soul. And so you have this question, is soul one or is it a many? Is the individual soul a real thing or is it only an illusion? So these are metaphysical questions that many of us hold and many of us have very different answers. But we can consider that. So that's something to turn in your mind, turn it over and think about the things that you've read. It's a way to kind of reflect on what you read, seeing how well you remember it, because what we'll find is that the things that we did not understand are very difficult to remember later. So you can kind of test how well you understood the reading in the first place. But then also you want to carry the question. Don't just be satisfied with whatever it was you read. What does it mean to you? Turn it inward and question it more. You can also think about the application of metaphysics, because it is very easy to compartmentalize this. We have our reading and then we have our real world. And it's very easy to separate them and just kind of treat philosophy as a hobby. And if it is your hobby, that's fine. But this video, I'm really thinking of those people who want to truly make philosophy a way of life and to be truly transformed through this study. And so for us, then it's not enough to compartmentalize it. One simple example, Plato teaches that we are not the physical body. The common notion is that we identify with the body, with the roles that we play in life. But Plato says, no, that's not our identity. Whatever soul is, that's the metaphysical question I used in the last example. So we haven't answered that quite yet, but whatever it is, that's our essence. And so what does it mean? Then there's the next question. There's first the question of what is soul, but then there's also the question of what would it mean to not be, for this to not be our essence, that this is a role that we play. What does that mean to your life? And what does being a soul in human form have to do with washing dishes, paying bills? How do you make sense of it? How do you bring it together? Where do you find the comprehension of these various areas and these various levels of reality that are all part of our lives? Another thing that you can do is think about things, for example, like how to live your life more in line with virtue. So if you've read, say, The Republic, where he talks about the different virtues, he gives definitions of them. But what would it mean in your life, taking what you read in that dialogue and applying it to your life? How does that translate into your everyday life? How can you be more courageous? How can you be more temperate, and so on? Okay, so thinking about those areas in your life that you can improve upon. What are the changes that you can make? Now, these are things that you might think about when you're by yourself. But of course, when you're with other people, then unless they're people that you can discuss these things with, then what you want to do here, maybe if in those situations, especially when you are not with people you can discuss these things about, or you're not in a situation where you're having this kind of discussion, it doesn't mean that you have to put philosophy aside. This is an opportunity to apply all the things that you've been thinking about, to be truly present with other people. When you're thinking about what it means to be present, or what is the meaning of being present, these sorts of questions, these philosophical questions, as interesting as they are, they separate you from the moment. That you're not being present when you're thinking about the meaning of being present, because then your focus, of course, is on that philosophical question of the meaning of it. You want to really be present, really listen to people, really talk with them, really connect with them, try to feel their energy even. And I think that you'll find that actually this can improve relationships. And it also centers us more, it focuses us more. We're not off on a daydream all the time or constantly, thinking about something in the past, but to really be in the present. The present moment is the only moment we have, really. The past and the future, they don't exist except as concepts in the present. All we really have is the present moment, so be present. Other things that we can do is ways of quieting the mind. So whereas we looked before at various questions you can ask your application questions, you can ask your metaphysical questions. You might carry a question like, what is it that sees and hears and thinks? What is this essence, this self, this soul, whatever you want to define it? What is it? So this is a question you can carry. But other things you can do in addition to asking yourself questions is quite the opposite. Just turn off all the voices. This is another meaningful practice of quieting the mind. Focus on the breath. And I often will do this when I'm doing things around the house, like cleaning up or, washing dishes, doing laundry. This is a common practice that I will do at those moments. And just focus on the breath and just focus on the activity of what I'm doing. And this is a way to just kind of quiet the mind, settle everything down. And it has an amazing effect on my energy as well. And it's a very positive thing. Another thing that you'll find when you do this sort of practice, and also with the questions as well, in both cases, what you'll find is that other voices will pop up in your head, voices that you don't want there. Often the critical voices, or the voices that criticize you or tell you that you're wasting your time, or you'll go back to some difficulty that you're having with another person and you'll play it over in your mind over and over. Yeah, so you'll play it over and over in your mind. And so what you want to do is pay attention to those things. Yes, we want to turn them off, but before you toss them away, ask yourself, whose voice is that? Or where did I get that from? What is that belief? And this is another one that we can trace back to our childhood, because there is this sort of this purification process that we have to go through of clearing away the false beliefs from childhood. And so these voices are the voices of your own belief system. They may come in the form of a person you disagree with at work, or they come in the form of mom or dad, or, various people from your past, or some people maybe in your present now. But even though they have that voice, they're your own belief system. If you didn't believe it in some way, you wouldn't be hearing that voice. And so you want to pay attention to that. And for those of you keeping a journal, and if you do have time in your day to write in your journal throughout the day, these are things that you want to write down. But even if you don't have time, if you're a busy person with a lot of responsibilities and you don't have time to constantly be writing in a journal, that's fine. Just make a mental note of them. Keep track of these sorts of patterns. What are the voices that you've been hearing? And also, what is it that triggers them? Which questions is it that triggers them, or which thoughts? Or is it every time you try to just focus on the breath and quiet down or be in the moment? Is that when the voices come up? And take a look at what is the connection there. A lot of us have been raised with this idea that turning inward and focusing on the moment is a waste of time, that we should always be doing something, always planning something, always being responsible. And so those kind of beliefs, if you do have those from your childhood, they are going to be triggered by these sorts of activities. Now, again, if you do have time to read throughout the day, that is a great thing. But even if you don't, still, at least it's a good idea. I do recommend to at least take 20, 30 minutes before bed to do a little bit of reading, something really meaningful that you can carry with you into your sleep. And possibly even a short meditation before you sleep, because that will really quiet the mind and it prepares you for more meaningful dreams. And then again, of course, when you wake up in the morning, it all starts again where you write down that meaningful dream. Oh, one final note that I do want to comment on is on food and exercise. Now, many Platonists are vegetarians. Many of you have read Porphyry's treatise on the abstinence of animals for food. Not all Platonists are vegetarians, though, and it's not necessary to be one. It really is a personal choice. I personally am not a vegetarian, but I have found that if I eat a lot of red meat, then it does affect me in a negative way. It affects my energy. And I think that you will find in general that as you get more deeply into this kind of practice, and your reading is done in a theurgic way, and you're doing meditation, you're doing some kind of energy balancing, such as yoga, and you're taking walks and turning inward, and you're questioning yourself, you're watching your states of mind, you're doing all of these things. What you're going to find is that you will become more sensitive to your own energy, obviously to your own states of mind, but also you're going to find that you become more sensitive to your physical body as well, and that they work together. We're not against our body. We're not trying to escape our body. We're living here in our bodies, and so we want to work with them. And if you're eating a lot of junk food, if you're not exercising, if you're living in a way that is not healthy, it will be counterproductive and it will become an obstacle for you. So I do recommend that you try to bring your body along with your soul and making both healthy, or working on health in both directions. I know I grew up eating a lot of junk food, and so I really do understand how difficult it is to give that up. Maybe you like your deep fried foods, maybe you like your sugary foods. I get it. It is hard to give all that up, but maybe just little by little, making your life a little bit healthier, eating a few more vegetables, eating a little less of the junk food. And also getting exercise is really important. I'm not an athletic person, so I understand many of you probably are not either. And it's okay, you don't have to become athletic, but just getting a little exercise, maybe just even just take walks even. You can, and now here on YouTube, there's so many different exercise videos. You can find something you can do at home if you don't want to change your clothes and do the whole bit. You can do a quick workout at home using YouTube. You can take a walk. You can go for a jog. You don't have to join a gym, but obviously you can if you want. But in some way or another, it's really good to just get your body moving. It gets your energy moving, and it gets your physical energy going. It gets your body moving physically, but then also that has an effect on your spiritual energy as well, and it really helps the cleansing process. So it really does all work together. Our bodies should be our friends. We want to make them our friends. And so you want to try to let go of the unhealthy habits. Little by little is fine. And little by little, bring in healthier habits as well. And then again, as for being a vegetarian, that really is a personal decision. You can find what works for you. And if that does work for you, then that could be a possible choice. But if it's not, then still you can find other sources of protein to complement your diet so you don't have to eat as much meat and eat a lot more vegetables. And I think you'll find that it really does help overall. Okay, so overall then, I'd say that even if you're a very busy person, having a little time in the morning and a little time at night to be quiet and to turn inward and to do things like reading and contemplating and journaling, this can be very meaningful. And then finding time to read either in those times, or if you have a schedule that allows you to read during the day, then you can have an even fuller schedule of doing a metaphysics where you are reading more during the day and really contemplating it. But again, even if you don't have that time, you don't have to compartmentalize being a philosopher. Carry it with you all day long, whether it's in your thoughts throughout the day, those little moments throughout the day when you're by yourself and you can turn inward, thinking about various things. Again, thinking about metaphysics, thinking about the application of it, thinking about how to bring it more fully into your life and live in a more virtuous way. These sort of contemplations are very meaningful. And again, when our interactions with other people, even if we're not talking philosophy specifically, we can be focused on really being present and being that virtuous person and being that person who brings more beauty into the world and who interacts with people in a wiser way. And so we're not compartmentalizing philosophy. Whether you have a lot of free time or you're a very busy person with a lot of responsibilities, still, we can be a philosopher 24/7 because this is a way of life. It's not just something we read about. It's something that informs the way we live our lives. So I hope you found that helpful. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. What do you do during the day? Is there anything that you would add? Is there anything here that I said that you find very difficult to do? Or is there anything that you find is really helpful that you have been doing that you find is helpful? What is your advice to people? So let us know and we'll get a conversation going. I think other people will also enjoy seeing what your comments are, and I think it's very helpful to others. So I hope we can get a conversation going. And I thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. So long.